Welcome back, everyone. Last week, I asked you to measure out 4.6 meters of length. I've used this measuring tape, but you can also use string or rope to the distance of 4.6 meters. This represents the timeline of Earth. Earth is 4.6 billion years old. So every meter along your timeline represents a billion years. Every 10 centimeters is 100 million years. And every single millimeter is 1 million years of Earth's history. Your task was to place along the timeline these key milestones in Earth's history. When do you think these key milestones happened? Well, let's now find out. So on my timeline, the start of Earth's history is over here. I'm afraid this room isn't quite big enough, so I've had to curve my timeline here. But hopefully you have enough space to lay out your full 4.6 meters of Earth's history. The first milestone concerns the point at which the very first evidence of life on Earth becomes apparent. Where in the timeline do you think this milestone arises? Well, the answer is about 750 million years from the start point. So that's 75 centimeters along our measuring tape. That's about 750 million years from the start point. So on my timeline, that's precisely here. It's pretty amazing to think that the first fossil evidence of life on Earth is dated to 3,850 billion years ago. And that's that point right here. It may be possible that life actually existed earlier and just simply isn't apparent in the fossil record. But that's generally the point that most authorities agree that life was definitely existing on our wonderful planet. Our next milestone concerns when the first animals become apparent in the fossil record. Remember, the grouping of animals doesn't just include birds, mammals and reptiles, but rather can consist of single-celled animal life as well. At which point did you decide the first animals become apparent? Well, the answer is way over here. It's at 390 centimeters from the start, which is right here. Believe it or not, this is where the first animals become apparent in the fossil record. Look at that vast expanse of the timeline during which there were no animals present on Earth. The next milestone concerns the point at which the first land plants become discernible in the fossil record. Note that up until this point, all of the life was in the water of the planet, in the oceans and seas. But at what point do you think plants moved onto land? Well, the answer is at 410 centimeters from the start. This is 4.1 billion years into the timeline, right over here. This is the point at which the first evidence of land plants becomes discernible. It's pretty amazing to think that that was just 500 million years ago from the present day over here. Our next milestone concerns when the first animals moved onto land. And that took place relatively soon after the plants, at 420 centimeters from our start point. That's about 4.2 billion years since the formation of the planet. And that's about 400 million years ago from today. The next milestone is a very important one. It's the emergence of the very first mammals. This took place at around 440 centimeters from the start point, or 4.4 billion years from the formation of the planet. So that's about here. We'll put our first mammals here. They were mostly small shrew-like creatures that scurried around. And this is only about 200 million years ago from the present day. The next milestone is the extinction of the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs became extinct about 65 million years ago. So that relates to 4 meters and 53 centimeters on the timeline. So right about here. Look, we're getting pretty close to the present day. I'll put that one right there. And the last milestone is arguably the most important, at least from our perspective, because it concerns us. When do you think our species, Homo sapiens, emerged in this timeline? Well, the answer is that fossil records of Homo sapiens stretch back just 200,000 years. That would be in the last fifth of the last millimetre of this timeline. So right over here. It's so close to the end, I really can't mark it on. Our entire history as a species would occupy the space of just a few human hairs on this 4.6 metre long timeline. Just stop and think how recent we occurred on the planet and how tiny a part of Earth's history we really are. Just step back and look at your timeline. What does it teach you? Clearly, most of the key milestones in Earth's history are over here, close to the present day. Look at this vast expanse of time, literally 3 billion years since the beginning of life on Earth, when nothing existed except very simple organisms, generally single cellular life. During this enormous expanse of time, these 3 billion years here in the middle, life slowly accumulated. Oxygen was produced, changing the Earth's atmosphere, and gradually it became more and more complicated over this immense expanse of time. Well, how did you get on? Did you find the correct positions for the different milestones in Earth's history? Or did you think these different milestones occurred much earlier along the timeline? I wouldn't blame you if you did, because it's astounding how recent all of the key developments are in relative terms in the history of our planet. If there's one thing you take away from this experiment, it's the incredible age of the planet and the humbling reality that our brains simply didn't evolve to understand the concept of 1 million years, let alone 1 billion years. Thank you for taking part in this timeline experiment, and I hope you've enjoyed exploring the astonishing history of our wonderful planet. Now let's find out who won this week's prizes.